Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But as everyone knows who's downloading this, or you should by now, it is our bonus episode, and it is a TV Tuesday, and we are actually three best friends who are doing a deep dive into a book or into a TV series, Wheel of Time, episode 7.
She's been following along with the book too.
Yeah.
She's our number one fan.
I did just get a text from her saying, how long do I have until I need to finish halfway of Knife of Dreams? And I was like, well, Wednesday. So but
you have longer than I do.
But we're discussing Wheel of Time, episode 7, The Dark Along the Ways, with our friend Veronica of Ronnie Reads Regularly.
I haven't started Knife of Dreams.
It's okay. Laura barely remembered she needed to start Knife of Dreams.
Yeah, I remembered
weekend.
Very last minute. So yeah.
Laura's been super busy at work, guys, like to the point where Hannah felt guilty that we had to get 2 episodes out last week. And I was like, so next year we're going to mark it in our calendars that we're taking the last week of the year off.
Or at least only do 1 episode, maybe.
Yeah, just something to give her a little bit of a reprieve because she has been slammed at work. And I had to text her on Friday, and I was like, so I'm starting Knife of Dreams, and she was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I totally forgot I had to read it.
It was a moment I felt very guilty.
I thought you were taking January off to do the winter. So in my head, I thought it was like, oh, I got to go get that Stars book.
No, but yeah, that's a good point, guys.
One,
make sure you're picking up Light from Uncommon Stars, because we are covering that in February, and start reading it early and often. February. Yeah, it's February. It's a February standalone month.
Yes.
But we are covering the 11th book this month, and we're covering the 7th episode today. So Veronica, before we get into the 7th episode, what do you think of the Wheel of Time so far up until episode
What has
7?
your Wheel of Time journey been like?
The TV show or the book?
Both.
But no spoilers for book, right?
No spoilers for book. We're being very careful about book. Although in this episode, some spoilers happened for the first book. So
they did, and I have thoughts about it, but I'm not sure. Okay, we'll get to that. For Wheel of Time, I started reading it because Hannah told me she was starting a podcast with her friend Laura, and I was like, I have FOMO, and there's a pandemic, so I'm gonna read this. And
actually, I texted her about it, and she said, that's funny because I was going to ask you to start a podcast. So Laura beat me to it.
I was going to have you start a Bechdel Cast for Books podcast.
I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing.
I mean, because you have to with Wheel of Time, you have to analyze the way he writes women. Honestly, I've made online friends because of Wheel of Time. There's another Ronnie out there who also reads Wheel of Time, and all we do is send each other bits about the books and movies. And it's a show, it's not a movie. But overall, I like the story arc for the books. I'm very frustrated with where we are now, but that is neither here nor there for this episode. And for the show, I've been so pleasantly surprised. Most of my opinions follow with everything you guys have been saying. I've listened to every episode.
The show is canon.
The show is canon. No, I texted you a couple times. It is. It's so much less offensive towards women. There's so much less
so
cleavage.
Good in general.
It's so good. I mean,
it is.
And this is probably my second favorite episode of the entire season. So I'm glad that we're having Veronica on to discuss it. Mm-hmm. And guys, just so you know, Veronica is a friend who I met in adulthood through my roommate, and now she's friends with Laura, where she texts her often, and she's becoming friends with our friend Bobby, who was on the second episode of TV Tuesdays. So
yeah, Bobby, I need to text her more because and I'll probably bring this up later when we get to the part of the episode. Her and I both played Dragon Age, which is an amazing game. And I love it. But the big thing with the first Dragon Age game is the Blight. And so now at the end of this episode, spoiler, they reach the Blight. And I was like, oh, I want to play Dragon Age again. And I really can't just play Dragon Age again. It's a 100-hour long game. So it wouldn't be an easy play.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Laura, your
Bobby's-
eyes just got so big.
Bobby is our
am a
resident
board game
gamer.
person, not a gamer. So I
love
I can't
board
even imagine
games.
doing like that much video game.
We played a lot of board games over the Christmas holiday, but love me some video games when I have time, which I don't
will
as
say
a 30-something woman.
that Bobby's birthday is January 11th, which will be our last TV Tuesday of the year. And one of my gifts are gaming related for her. So our resident Capricorn. But with that, you're enjoying the show. It's canon. Are there anything that like
canon.
Feel like you aren't loving as much in the series so far?
This is about episode 7. I don't love some things in episode 8, but I'll keep them to myself.
Okay.
Overall, I like a lot of the changes that are made. I think it's really hard to figure out what I don't love because I'm remembering back to reading the first book and I did hate most of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back now when we're on book, 10 or 11, where some of the characters I hated in the first book, I almost said love, but you don't love characters of Wheel of Time. I like now. I'm like going back to this and I'm like, did I hate this character this much? When I read the first book, I don't remember. In this household, we like to call Rand the twat waffle. So when we're watching things, we just scream, look at that twat waffle being so twatty. And I'm trying to remember if I thought he was such a twat waffle when I was reading. But I mean, the graphics could be a bit better. I don't really understand some of the changes that they're making with Matt at this point. And I'm wondering if it has to do with the recasting that they just like cut him out of the end of the series. I don't know.
Also wondered that.
I didn't think it was that just because they're just changing certain parts of him, but I could see where if it's the recasting that they just like pulled him out before the last episode.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
I thought it was
the
more
only thing that makes sense.
I actually thought it was more to like amp up the darkness inside of him to like get him away from the group earlier and to like play up on some of the stuff with the dagger that they kind of just didn't.
And the recasting was just convenient.
Yeah, and then the recasting was just really convenient because honestly, like the first season was done and already in the bag by the time they recast, so it doesn't make sense for him to be cut out.
Well,
but I guess
when
we'll
they
never know
announced
without
the recasting.
I know, but
we'll never really know.
Yeah,
as far as like their schedules and everything, what went down. So
no, I have a plan.
It made more sense with some of the like amping up of the dagger that I thought that they like that he was kind of pulled off before the end of the episode. And like they've done enough where they keep trying to surprise people who've already read the books that I was like, oh, this is just what they're doing. So we know that you do not like Rand in the TV series. Is there a character who's been like one of your faves in the TV series?
I mean, I love Nynaeve, although I do agree with some things you've said in previous episodes. Like, I think the show makes her naiveness a little more, it makes more sense that she's so like obstinate, but every so often it does get to me in the show because, you know, it's not fun to watch someone just be obstinate for obstinate's sake. But I do love her. Lan and Moraine are really like the main takeaways for me.
Yeah.
And I hated Moraine in the first book.
You did really I remember you disliking Moraine.
I didn't trust her. I was like, okay, pardon my language. I was like, who's this bitch? Like, what's she gonna trick people in? That last sentence of the first book where she was like listening into people. I'm like, you shady.
There were so many texts from Veronica being like, I just don't trust Moraine. Like, I just don't think you can trust her. And she was like on this for a while. So I do remember that about you.
It's because of the freaking Ouroboros ring. Like, I came into this with preconceived notions of what people with Ouroboros tend to mean. But I had a big problem with Moraine. I love her in the show. I love the change to make her and Suan like a couple. I'm interested to see where that goes. I hope they don't do like a kill your gays trope, which I don't know. They're kind of leaning like, she is your downfall. More spoilers for the plot thing. But I'm loving that.
I mean, if people are listening to this episode, if they're going to listen to the beginning of it, then it's like, I'm going to pause it before we get into the plot, go watch the episode. And now Veronica has ruined it. Like, I don't think anyone's doing
That's fair.
That's an odd choice.
They're really just here for the background of how Veronica feels about the characters.
And then the only other change I'm not the biggest fan of so far, but I do get why they made it, is just like Tom not being there.
I mean,
and like
he
was.
I don't know how to feel about Tom in general because people are like so on board with him as he's
Tom
being
is daddy
portrayed
now.
in the I know. I mean, he's extremely attractive. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. He's wonderful to look at. But I'm just saying the things that they've decided to do with this character where it's like, bling, there he is. I'm like, okay, that's a little cheesy. Like, I was kind of wanting more like the grandfather type character that like follows him around and gives him grandfatherly advice rather than the hot guy that's like kind of like, ooh,
show that we get.
What do we think of him? We don't know. I don't know. I kind of wanted more of a presence from like a grandfatherly type figure, I guess.
He's just daddy
Robert
and
Jordan
this is a smoke show.
Yeah, and he rewrote the age of Tom 5 times. Like,
yeah, so we don't know how old he is, but
like, and if you look at the canon, they were always like, he's supposed to be like early 60s, and it's like, this is a 45-year-old man who just happens to have gray hair. Like,
he's got like 2 gray hairs in his beard. Old.
The rest look like highlights.
Yeah, like, no,
although
he's not old
say,
at all.
Now, if he ever pops back up in the series, I just want it to go broom, and then Laura's voice going, "There he is," because that's exactly how you're saying it.
Seriously though, every time they strum a guitar, there he was. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
that's getting a little cheesy.
It was a very weird opening. I see in my mind, I know they didn't introduce him at first because they were like, there's too many people. Because like, even when I was reading the first book, I remember I got him and Padon Fane mixed up a couple of times. And then I was
get
like,
that because there's so many characters. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
However,
like, it was, and they also
character. I don't know.
They also both arrived at the same time. Like Padon Fane like comes into town and they're like, oh look, it's the peddler. And then they're like, there's a Glee man inside. And I remember being like, what? What? And then
I guess maybe I miss Tom because like in the first couple books, Tom seemed like he was gonna be really important, and where we are now, no one's important. And I'm like, maybe they finished the series and they know Tom doesn't matter, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, I thought Tom
he has
mattered.
To matter.
I mean, he was such a good like. Sorry.
No, you're fine. She just said old people forever, which is the hashtag.
Well, old people forever, but also if they're cutting out what old people forever is implying towards, maybe it makes sense to cut him down more. Maybe they're going to use some of the characters that he pairs up with later in the book series instead of him.
Guys, you guys both need to start reading book 11 because there's something in it that it's like, what? It's very random, but I can't wait for you.
I mean, that's how
related to Tom?
Yeah. I totally understand where it's like Tom felt much more important. And I also think like when you get rid of him, we've talked about this before in the podcast, you miss out on like him teaching Rand and Matt stuff, which is like very like formative for them. Yeah. And to like not be dumb little country boys where it's like, hey, when you go to an inn, you have to be useful. You have to keep your head down. You have to do this, this, and this. It's like he met them for 2 nights and they're both like, this is the man I trust the most. And it's like, but why?
And also,
he stole your money. Don't trust him.
Yeah. Also, like he can steal my money anytime. Like if it means he crosses up against me, I'm fine with it. But like,
but that actor is allowed to steal my money.
That actor playing that character, I don't know what he's like outside of it. I'm not pairing myself with anyone. I'm very happily in a relationship, but I think I'll get a hall pass for a character. But no, it's one of those things too where in the book, it was very clear because in the show, they keep saying like, well, he's dead now. And in the show, like they made it very clear why. I did not catch that had happened in the show. And then the next episode, they're like, well, Tom's dead. I'm like, is he? Because I didn't see it happen. And
that's
you guys were traveling and suddenly he's like, run. And you're like, okay. And then we never see him again. And I felt like I missed something and I replayed the scene. I'm like, no, this wasn't a clear goodbye.
You needed like a diehard like farm blowing up in the background and them looking at it with shock.
She wanted like a long live the king, like throw him down into the wildebeest.
I mean,
it would have helped.
It would have helped to have like something where they're like, oh my God, like with Nynaeve, her fake out death was so like she's dragged away by her hair and we're like, oh my God. And with Tom, it was like someone next episode was like, oh, Tom was great. He's dead. I'm like, is he? Did I miss that? I thought he was just getting you guys coffee. Like, I thought he just wasn't in this scene because of coffee.
Over at Starbucks, guys.
I thought he was restringing his guitar and paying for it with a little tune.
Oh my God. Although I did say I missed his Gleeman cloak, and I heard in Easter eggs, this has to be like a darkness thing or me not paying close attention. But apparently like the inner weaving of his cloak is like stitched with different patterns. So like that's supposed to be, but like, that's just a nod to people who read the book. It's not canon that's really important for Gleeman.
Well, whenever he came on and was talking to someone, he was like,
oh,
like you can't see this on this audio medium, but I like threw my sweatshirt back.
Yes.
And showed the inner lining. But I mean, it's my still like sweatshirt.
Dark,
you
dirty
still have
leather
to watch
jacket.
Extremely closely to pick up on some of these things. Like me watching the show, I'm just like, hey, that's not an old man. That's a young hot man.
Laura was too distracted by
notice, like, oh wow, the lining of his coat. Like, no way.
See, I did scream that. I was sitting there with Dan, my boyfriend, who has not read the books, and I was like, Gleeman cloak. I just like screamed it.
Love this because now it is noted that Laura was too distracted by a pretty face to notice the cloak. I'm just I
never
oblivious.
Noticed like a bunch of the Pot on Fane like Easter eggs either. So I feel like there's a lot of this stuff that you have to not notice watching closely to notice it. Like I saw people mention on Twitter, and then when I rewatched, I was like, oh yeah, I see it now. But
I did see a lot of those Easter eggs. I didn't see his Gleeman
I don't
cloak.
pay close enough attention, I guess.
I think I was more distracted by the fact where it's like Daddy Tom is in a leather jacket. Like that's such an odd choice. Like
no, I was ready for him to jump on his motorcycle and be like, let's hit the road.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice in general with how they have styled him.
I mean, they're trying to make the show like a teensy bit darker, so I get it. Like you're not having the first book, you're going more towards, like darker tones, but it was
there are certain things that I think they're good at with making it darker, because the first book very much felt like Fellowship of the Ring fan fiction with some gender bending. And didn't hate it, was clearly engaged enough to continue reading, although The Great Hunt really left something to be desired. And I wanted to quit.
Agreed.
I mean, they're already like pushing some of the Great Hunt in with book 3 from what I can see. So because not much happens.
Good. I don't know. There's certain things with the show where I'm a huge fan of, and I understand every choice they made. Like every single change they made makes sense to me, and for the most part, I agree with Laura. It's canon. It's better. The Tom thing is, I guess, like the only thing where I'm like, I hope you just don't plan for this to be a big character later on, because I don't feel like you set the groundwork enough for it.
That's fair.
Like there's not like Easter eggs in the background with Pot on Fane where like when he comes back, you're like, oh, let me rewatch the first season. Like I don't think we're gonna rewatch the first season and see Tom in the background going like,
I wonder if they're going to make different canon choices with him that like is argued in the book that I will not give into because spoilers, but I wonder if they'll make those changes and just like, that's how they'll make him important instead. But I guess we won't know until we watch it.
I hope they like combine him with another 2 characters. I see them doing that with some characters where like, I'm assuming Leandrin is combined with a couple other characters, because Leandrin seems like big bad level in the show, interesting, chaotic person. And in the book, I was kind of like, oh, who's the curly blonde Aes Sedai that we're talking about?
Yeah. She has braids or something?
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. She's the blonde one we met, right? Yeah. And then 15 books later, you're like, okay, all their names rhyme.
Oh my God. So many rhyming names. Yeah. I'm sure that they'll combine quite a few characters. But with that, should we get into the episode at hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this episode.
I'm so excited to just say the sentence because we enter in upon a snowy mountain and there is a woman who is shown to be an Aiel and she is wrapped in a shufa, which we have learned that when their shufa is covering their face and covering their hair, that they are in battle. She is noticeably pregnant and she is covered in blood. And then what happens next? It's an amazing battle sequence as she is in labor, like active labor.
Is amazing because usually it's the only time you ever like see pregnant women portrayed in TV shows, especially like fantasy TV shows, hate to say it, is they're absolutely helpless and they're just like sitting there and somebody's bringing them a little like wash rag and wiping off their face. And so this is amazing to see this.
it's just amazing to see like a pregnant woman just being a badass. Like,
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Pregnant women are
this.
amazing.
Yeah. And she
also,
like at one...
No.
Oh, go ahead.
None of the guys were like, "Oh, she's pregnant. I don't want to stab her." Like they were
exactly.
Like,
they're like, "No, she's attacking us."
Except for the last one, but she
wasn't attacking him anymore.
Yeah. At one point, she's fighting 3 men at once. She's killing that there, and they have like great moments where like you can tell she is. I loved how the camera work was with this because you could tell she's in active labor because a couple of times like everything would slow down for her and she's in like extreme amounts of pain but still actively working to fight these people. Yes. And at one point she does have a contraction which stops her from being able to fight a certain person and she's stabbed in the side. She is bleeding and she ends up killing him. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to interrupt you, so I'm gonna raise my hand.
No. You can definitely interrupt the entire
Veronica
time.
Is raising her hand and Hannah is answering her.
Way I
calling on her.
Turned into a teacher. I was in a lot of law school and I'm used to that, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, okay, so there's 2 things about, okay, first of all, this scene was epic, and when it happened, I was watching this with my mom who was in town and my boyfriend, and I had a couple glasses of wine and I was just like hooting and hollering, but like 2 things did kind of bother me with it. One, she's not veiled. Like she should have veiled as soon as the guys came up. And 2, she looked a little too redheadish.
I think that they're using the shufa more as like because it was covering her head. That's also supposed to be a sign because as soon as the battle gets done, she removes it off of her. And I think that might also be like future battle scenes. If everyone's face is covered, that's going to be way too difficult. So I think they're probably changing the canon a little bit to say that veiled means head covering as well. So you can end up seeing faces. So I do think that was a hint. And I think that there's a little bit of subterfuge going on with everything else from what we know of the books. Because she does finish the battle and as she's bleeding and she removes the man's cloak who stabbed her, which was amazing to like help her birth this child. She does take her shufa off. We see she has red hair. And this is a sign that she is done fighting. Then all of a sudden there is a heron marked blade standing above her. And we see an officer with his helmet on and it cuts to black in the opening scene. It's very exciting.
And she rips open her crotch, which you never see in shows. They just like somehow are like, my baby is magically going to be born. And she's like, I need to make an opening. I was like, yes,
that is true. She does prepare herself for birth. I just think it's a very honest portrayal of like pregnant women aren't just sitting around helpless for hours and hours and hours. Like contractions go on for a while. Lots of people do many things while they're having contractions. I like just watching a woman be actively pregnant who has her own agency and can still kick ass is so cool. Laura and I were texting about how much we loved that scene when it was happening.
I was so happy with it.
And then we have the opening scene of Wheel of Time. And then it cuts into everyone crying out for Matt as the doors are closing in on the ways. And he did not follow after them. Nynaeve tries to get Moiraine to reopen the ways because they cannot leave him behind. But Moiraine says he made his choice. And then Rand, little petty bitch that he is, goes, "Did you make it for him?" And she's like, "Dude, you know what darkness is around him. Like, we can't just stop for him." And Loyal notes that they can't channel because, Moiraine and Lan like walk off and Nynaeve wants them to try to reopen the gate. And Egwene is like, "We can't do that. We barely know how to channel." And Loyal notes that they can't channel or we'll bring on Machin Shin, I think is the way they pronounced it, but I cannot remember. Machin Shin. Rand says that they can't leave him. And Egwene notes that he left them, not the other way around.
Right.
Accurate.
Good on you, Egwene.
It's very accurate. Egwene is just here. This is the Egwene episode where I was like, oh, everything I love about Egwene is showing through in this episode.
Finally.
For me, where like she's sitting there and she's like, he left us. We just need to move forward.
But this is like the beginning of the twat waffle of Rand. Well, not the beginning, but like all throughout this episode, Rand is like, your perspective's wrong, Egwene. No,
I didn't mind because it's shown that Rand's been traveling with Matt and he's watched him suffer and he was so afraid of him dying that I
felt like it was more of a sympathy thing, an empathy thing.
Especially when you look at who is the most worried about Matt, it's Nynaeve and Rand, which I think from knowing them and everything we've seen in this season really works well and effectively. Like it seemed like Perrin and Egwene were being the reasonable ones who were like, no, it has to be this way. And Nynaeve and Rand were like, but we love Matt and we can't just leave him. Like, it felt genuine to me. So that actually worked for me. But I do understand the whole, like, Rand, just stop yelling at your girlfriend so much. And
she's not his girlfriend. Also, they're not together and I'm really sick of it. I'm sick of them being like, let's cuddle. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys are toxic as hell. Do not support each other's best interests. Please stop cuddling. Egwene, you can do better.
I also don't mind that because, like, I feel like their breakup was never 1,000%. It's one of those things that bothered me at the beginning of the series where, like, at the beginning, they all run away and Rand keeps arguing with her, like, you dumped me. And she was like, well, I made a decision when I was going to be the wisdom and you made a choice that you wanted marriage or nothing. But now everything has changed and we're still not talking about, like, I was like, well, at least they're admitting that everything has changed at this
point.
No, because like later, okay, so in the first episode, when Egwene is like, yo, wisdoms don't marry, and he's like, cool, I support your choice, but I'm really sad. I was like, oh, nice. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, girls suck. And like was rude to her about it. And then at the end of this episode, he's like, oh, I support your choices. And I'm like, last time you said this, you were lying. Don't trust him, Egwene.
I think that is a fair assessment. It worked for me. Like, I really liked this episode of them, but parts of it did not work for me, and we will definitely discuss that. Laura, I don't know your thoughts on it.
As far as the Egwene Rand thing, I feel like I just don't care about that relationship. I thought a lot of the whiny Rand stuff was dumb, and I just think Egwene could do better. And I didn't like that in the first book either. I don't know. But I do think that it in this episode it didn't bother me as much, I guess. So I don't know. I think I was more bothered by it earlier on in the season than I am now.
We are the three bearers of this episode of Rand and Egwene. One is too hot, too cold, and just right. So, but yeah. So,
oh, that's what you said. I thought you meant we were the three bearers.
Oh, no, no,
and I was like,
bearer.
We're the ring bearers.
Did you say bear or bearer, Barney?
Like I was thinking like a pole bearer, like we're carrying the death of the ship.
That's a joke in How I Met Your Mother season 9, where he keeps going, I have the ring bearer, and she's like, ring bear or ring bearer? Please tell me there's no bear at our wedding. So just so you know, Perrin states that they can't do anything and they can't get Matt back, and sitting down and dying wouldn't help. Nynaeve says that once this is all over, they will find him, and everyone walks away with Rand being the last one to leave as he looks at the closed door. Lan asks Moiraine what happens if Matt is the dragon reborn. She notes that there is an inherent darkness in him that drew him to the dagger, and the dagger is feeding off him and vice versa, and so she can't let him get near the Dark One if he's the dragon because they can't afford the dragon going to the shadow. They traverse the waves with lightning going off in the background that looks very fake, but I liked the bridge that they were on. The ways are mostly just a long bridge. Loyal notes that this was once a lively place with grass and trees, but now a wrong step could mean falling into a void forever, or worse. And Egwene's like, what could be worse? And Loyal's like, I can think of many things. And Brandon's like, thank you, Loyal. And just like stops him talking in a very bookish moment.
Love it.
Lan says he owes Moiraine 3 silvers to Nynaeve, and Nynaeve looks at him and she is scowling, and he's like, you're scowling or pouting, and he's very amused by her. He states that Matt is safer where he is than in the ways to comfort her. Perrin notes that there's something up there ahead, but no one else can see it. Lan moves forward with Loyal, and Loyal sees it's a guiding stone that has been harmed. This is strange because no OWWR would deface a guiding stone, and it means that someone was trying to keep people from finding their way, and that seems really intentional. He notes that he has to look at the stone and he needs everyone's patience. And Rand says, if he's asking for patience, we'll be here a while. And
that one got me.
It was very funny. So Moiraine tells them that they should all rest there. Rand asks Perrin how he saw what was up ahead, and Perrin says he does not know. Lan asks Moiraine what did this to the guiding, and Moiraine notes that something is following them. Everyone's getting ready to rest. Nynaeve is looking over at Moraine. Then Egwene curls up next to Rand, and Perrin is looking on at them. And Nynaeve is watching all this happen. And then it cuts to Lan stoically standing off to the side with his hood up. And I was like, this is a very funny shot to me. It's just Lan with his little hood.
I wrote, Lan in a hood is my new sexual awakening.
I mean, he looked very good. It was just very random to all of a sudden be like, I'm over here. It's if only Veronica, you had
visual medium.
No. If only Veronica, you had seen Encanto yet, because I would make a joke about Encanto right here.
I know what you're talking about.
I know, and it's a very funny joke. So you're missing.
Let me just say, we don't talk about Bruno.
Or Jorge. And so then Egwene hears a whistling and she wakes up Rand and she's like, did you? And then her voice kind of trails off. She walks out and suddenly there is a Trolloc and a weave comes off and pushes him over the ledge for someone channeling. There's lightning and we see a figure in the background. Loyal states that it should be impossible that Trollocs are there, and then he says that Mashan Shin is coming, and Nynaeve is like, what is that? This is the second time I'm asking you. And he's like, it's the black wind. And Moraine warns them not to listen to whatever it says. Lan says that they cannot make it to the Waygate they're supposed to be, and he asks how far away Faldara is, and they run off to get to the Faldara Waygate. They have to like kind of traverse over this little short, very thin bridge, and the black wind comes upon them, surrounding them. We cut to Moraine hearing the wind. It says she's wrong about everything she thinks, and she will kill the children. Egwene hears that she is an imposter. Rand hears that Egwene can't love Rand like he loves her. And then we cut to Perrin, and God, I fucking hated this plot point. Perrin wanted Layla dead because he loved another woman, which comes up in later parts of this episode.
Will we have any time to rant about this?
Voices.
What'd you say, Laura? Sorry, you cut out for a sec.
I said minus the Perrin voice that he heard. I loved the voices. I thought that was an excellent way to portray it.
I loved the voices. I hated Perrin's voice.
The whole Perrin thing, we'll get there, but it's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
I need to yell about it for a while.
Okay. And then I
love this scene.
We hear from Lan's voice that he cannot protect her. We do not know the her named. It's very specifically not said. And then we hear Nynaeve's voice saying that the children will all die and she will hear their screams. It says that you lost Matt and you will lose the others. And as it's telling her she lost Matt and she will lose the others, Nynaeve charges forward and Lan screams out to her to stop her. Then she screams and makes a huge spear protecting them all. Egwene asks Moraine to hurry and get them out of there, and she hurries to open the Waygate. Rand is watching everything happen. Egwene screams out for Nynaeve, and Lan goes up and grabs her, and they all run out into Faldara. Moraine tells them all that they did well. She looks at Nynaeve, and Nynaeve was like, where are we? She just does not pause or take a break. She's just like, okay, moving on. I don't need your compliments. And Loyal notes that they are the last bastion before you reach the Blight in Faldara. Moraine says that it's a day's walk to the Blight, but they can rest for now in Faldara where they have friends. Egwene tries to touch Rand, but it is noted he is crying. And Moraine says that whatever they heard, they should put it out of their minds. They are entering Faldara, and Loyal asks Lan when he was here last. We come up to a large amount of soldiers in the fortress and the castle, and they call Lan Daishine. And we see a character named Uno, if you look at the list of characters, and he welcomes Lan home and hugs him. He
was so cute.
He was so cute. Yeah. I really liked the casting for this.
I like that they chose such a short man and everyone's so tall around him, and he's like,
I know. He's just a little burly Uno man. We meet the ruler and his sister, Agelmar and Amelisa. Lan is greeted first, and then they greet Moraine. And she's like, I'm here with a warning. And Agelmar is like, I know why you're here. It's because my sister wrote to the White Tower about the Trolloc raids and the growing blight, and we can protect our own. And Moiraine is like, oh, no one thinks you can't watch Tarman's gap, which is the gap between them and the Blight. And she says that she isn't there to advise him. She reassures him. She's just there to warn him that the Dark One has been using the ways to travel. He is shocked. And she's like, I think you should probably try to wall it up. And he sends people to do so. And then he says, I have offended you. You are welcome in my kingdom. But he does not apologize, which is a very specific character choice. And then we cut over to a certain someone walking out of the Waygate and looking over at Faldara. He has a long coat and he's walking and he's swaggering.
I did right. He's got mad swag.
Oh, I mean, he's just like casually walking around everywhere. Like, man, nothing's a big deal.
But like the way he walks is just so.
Yeah, he really swings his arms and legs.
Yeah, he's like, hey.
Veronica and I both noted swagger. So.
Yeah, he's got major swagger. Like, and the coat helps because that coat is so great for like showing the swag. But the way he walks, I'm like, you are so relaxed and confident.
Mm-hmm. I know. It really works.
Really,
I think in an earlier episode, you, Hannah, and I was like, oh, I'm going to like pot on Fane, aren't I? I'm going to think he's hot.
They also do like, kind of. In the books, he is supposed to be seen as like this mealy character until the very end. And they're just like, nope, we're not going to do that. Like we're going to
confuse everyone. Yeah. And everyone will be attractive.
Yeah, when they run into him in the first book, he looks like unstable, like needing of food. And this time he's just like, yo guys, I'm here to shake things up.
What up? I'm here, bitches. Yeah.
Watch me walk.
And we all did. We cut over to Moiraine walking through the halls with Amelisa, who's like using the weaves to light fires. Moiraine notes that she wants to see the seer. And Amelisa's like, why? And she's like, well, wouldn't you want to talk to her? And she's like, yeah, but my brother never wants to. And Maureen's like, well, he can't take notes from anyone. So I'm not shocked by that. Amelisa asks why Moiraine was in the waves. Moiraine notes that Amelisa never became Aes Sedai, showing off a ring that has no jewel, showing no Aja. And she's like, are you loyal to us? Can I trust you? And Amelisa says she is loyal to her city first. Then Moiraine says she needs to send a message to the White Tower to get Matt Coffin. And she says, who should I send to get him? And she says, the Red Aja. So
how do we feel about this?
I think it's, again, with stuff like this, I'm always like,
it was strategic. It's Moiraine. It's strategic.
I also wondered, like, I feel like there's so many things where they're trying to shock us. So part of me was like, is it because she kind of has Liandrin in her pocket? Is it because it's strategic? I'm willing to wait and see.
Because that is the one name that Liandrin dropped, right? She was like, oh, you want to go see Matt Coffin? So
she also knew Rand's name. She said Matt Coffin or his friend Rand. So she does know. Again, I think sometimes like the show wants us to like question, and this may be like a moment where some people question Moiraine, being like, oh, she's sending the Red Aja. I just think it's the show trying to shock us. So I don't feel it's necessary to guess because they're trying to make you guess.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I don't think we need to be shocked just because I really just think this is just a strategic play on Moraine's part, and she's got it kind of covered where it's like nothing bad's gonna happen. Moraine's got this figured out.
Yeah.
But I also like feel like Moiraine doesn't give a shit about Matt. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like
feeling, but
I definitely don't get that feeling. I get that she was pretty sure he wasn't the Dragon Reborn because there's just something inside him that isn't good. And she wants to keep tails on him. Like, that's why she sent them after him. But I think she's just trying to move forward and doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. Like, at this moment, we know she is sworn to go to the Eye of the World. She's sworn to try to get the Dragon Reborn there. She's done what she's supposed to be doing. And so I feel like she's more, I have always seen Moiraine as someone who does what needs to be done.
Fair.
And that's just what she's doing.
Yeah. I guess I'm just looking for any indication of how they're taking Matt next season. Because considering how much I wanted Matt dead when I was reading the first, second, and part of the third book, I'm just very curious to see what they do with him.
I think it was all 3 books for me, so more power to you. But
I liked like one scene of his in the third book.
But we do cut over to Moiraine walking the 4 of them down the streets. Egwene is asking Rand what like what's wrong with him. And she tells him to forget about what the whispers said because they weren't true. Perrin thinks he sees Padan Fain, and Nynaeve is like, he was dead. He was there in the Two Rivers when the Trollocs attack. Perrin notes that the world is very different to them than life was back then. Moiraine walks them into a tavern, and she walks up to a bartender who looks over at her. She delivers beers to the 4 kids. And
best secretary ever.
And Rand, like, this is a cute moment where like Rand's talking to Perrin. I really like seeing the kids get along because it's like remembering that they're in this together, you know, High School Musical, all in this together. But Rand's like asking about the Tuatha, how they don't eat meat. And Perrin notes that they lead a simple life where they don't believe in war, and people would be better if they all lived that way. And they're all kind of like giggling. Like that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I like the fact that like they're showing Perrin like kind of wanting to be that way a bit and like interested in it, because the Tuatha, I think, were some of the best parts of this season. I love the way they did them.
It definitely helps set Perrin's character up as like a really reluctant character about what he's going to have to do. So I think that whole journey with the Tuatha and now him saying that kind of stuff is important setup that we needed.
I agree.
I think it's a nice way to evolve in the book, him being like axe or hammer. It'd be nice if it's just like hammer or Tuatha.
Well, I think it's, and we talk about this a lot in the books, that like each of the boys represent a different type of hero, and Perrin is very much reluctant hero of those like scions. I don't know if that's the proper way to say that, but he is the reluctant hero. And I think that this is a good way of showing that he really wanted to be part of the Tuatha almost, or he bought into their way of life.
Same.
But they're all laughing and enjoying themselves. And this is the part that makes me laugh so hard, because like they're having a moment of peace, and Nynaeve was like, everyone shut up. What is Moiraine up to? It shows like she cannot let go of what's going on. But she's also very observant. She's like, she wouldn't just take us to this bar for no reason. Why are you guys all chit-chatting? Then we cut over to
alert people.
And then we cut over to Moiraine. She asks the woman. She is not really named in this episode. I noticed they never use her name.
Yes, she is.
I thought they said once.
Oh, okay.
When she was talking to the king's sister, she was like,
I thought she called her
Min,
the
you want to
seer.
see the seer? But they called her Min first.
Oh, they did call her Min. Okay. Well, Moiraine asked Min to do a reading, and she says, do they know what I am that's really invasive that you just brought them here and asked me to read them? And Moiraine notes that the Aes Sedai are the ones who protect her from being hounded every single day of people knowing who she is, because the moment people they would come after her. Min looks at them and she says, this is one of my favorite lines. She goes, the big brooding one. And Moiraine goes, they're both big,
and they both brood.
I
loved it.
A good line. So Min is like, the one on the left, which is Perrin. She says she knows that he has yellow eyes and blood on his chin. And then she sees the redhead holding a baby, but she doesn't know who the baby is. And then they don't really differentiate the two girls, but she notes one has a white flame and a ring of gold, but she doesn't know what that means. But she notes that they are all linked with light, trying to be eaten by shadows, and vice versa. She notes that her readings are very strong, and any reading she has that is strong is always close to the pattern, because the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. And then Moiraine notes that Min sees something in her, and she tells her not to go looking for this kind of stuff, but she sees that the Amarillan seat is wearing her full regalia near Moiraine, and she will be Moraine's downfall, which is why Veronica is worried about the kill your gays trope. If anyone doesn't know what that means, it's just a trend in media where gay characters are often killed to further along the plot. They often do not get to reach the end of the series, it is a trend. Look it up. It's not great. So let's hope they don't do that in this, because they've been doing a pretty good job overall.
Thinking they won't.
I'm thinking they won't either, but it is something to note, and it's important to discuss as a trope. Yes. Then that night, they're all in the sitting room again, like Perrin, and Egwene are kind of laughing, and then Rand's like, she's coming in, and they all get quiet really quickly. Moiraine and Lan walk in. Moiraine says that they leave tomorrow at sunrise. Rand asks who the bartender was, and Moraine says it's a woman she's known since the woman was young. And Nynaeve says, don't lie to us. And Moraine goes, you forget I cannot lie. But then she does end up telling her the full truth, which is what she definitely didn't do. I was like, Moraine, you didn't really prove a point there.
You do sometimes kind of,
like, that one felt, it was just funny the way it was handled, because Moraine was like, I can't lie, girl. And she's like, but actually she's a person who could read your auras and see into the future. And I wanted to see if she could pick out who the Dragon Reborn was.
But we don't know that she wasn't about to say it.
I feel like the way she worded it, she didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
Like, that felt a little sneaky. But she noted that she wanted to see who the dragon was because she doesn't want them to die. But men couldn't tell, and so now they must all go to the Eye of the World, and whoever isn't the dragon will be ground to dust between the forces of nature. Egwene asks who the dragon is, and she says she does not know. Moraine says she will take them all, knowing they will die. Perrin asks how she knows this, and she could be wrong. Moraine says it's easy to use doubt as a crutch, but she's not going to do that, and she will follow this path because she must, and she knows what is right. Nynaeve says Moraine has made her choice, but they will make their own. And she notes that they are powerful in and of themselves, and Moraine cannot drag them. Moraine says if they run and hide, it won't save them from the weaving of the pattern, and she tells them to make their decisions tonight and leaves the room. And this begins a fight between Rand, Nynaeve, and Egwene. Rand says nothing in Aes Sedai says is optional, and she can definitely force them. Nynaeve is like, she can try. And then Queen Egwene in this moment, because I was a huge fan of her during this fight, where she notes that they left the two rivers to protect the people they love. And she says that what they're doing, that's what they're doing, no matter the cost. Nynaeve doesn't trust Moraine and says that, and she kind of pushes at Egwene, saying that she takes everything Moraine says as fact and only believes it because Moraine told her. And Rand notes that she can mislead them even if she can't lie. And Nynaeve says that Moraine could be wrong. Egwene says she isn't doing this because Moraine says she could, or she's convinced by Moraine. She wants to do this because if there's a chance that Moraine's right, then it's worth it to save the people they love. And then she pushes back in Nynaeve's face that Nynaeve is a wisdom. And if Moraine weren't a part of this, Nynaeve wouldn't think twice to sacrifice herself, which is very true.
True.
Yes.
And she tells her not to let her pride stop her from doing what is right. This is my favorite kind of Egwene, which is Egwene is someone who works hard. She's not like the perfect pretty princess or the like heroine, but she's the person who wants to do what's right, and she will put her head down and work at it. I love that part.
And she's fairly logical, which is a nice change from how women are typically written in fantasy. Like,
well, and like
her argument is very sound.
And her disagreements with Nynaeve are the way women would disagree, which is pointing out like, I know you. You're not afraid to do this. Something else is in your way, and you really need to look at that. And it's like, yeah, that is how a disagreement between two very close friends would go. And Nynaeve is chastised by this, and she turns away. And Rand argues that he doesn't want to lose anyone else in the room. Perrin asks if they are throwing their lives away for nothing, and what if Mat is the dragon? Egwene then scoffs at like the thought of Mat being the dragon reborn, and Rand becomes angry at her, and he tries to throw in her face that she doesn't think much of Mat and never did, and she couldn't see all the struggles that Mat went through and how he's had to fight for his life, and anything he's given, he gives to his sisters or his friends. And Egwene again throws back in Rand's face that Mat is the one who chose to leave them, and he saw Mat's face when he went back, and he probably went back for the dagger. Yep,
probably did.
And then Rand decides to be a petty twat waffle, as Veronica would say, and say, well, you're an expert at leaving. And he says that she left him. And that's the part where I was like, Rand, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
This was a grown-up decision of choosing a profession where you can't get married, and you needed her to be wife. Like, that's not okay. But then Perrin cuts in saying that Rand owes her an apology, which he did owe her an apology. But the next
we
moment,
don't need a man to say it.
And then what follows is Nynaeve saying she's sick of the two of them fighting over Egwene like something you can win, which makes in this series a plot line where Perrin was in love with Egwene all along. This was not in the books, everyone, and we all hated it. The look on our faces.
You know what's annoying about it too? Is Nynaeve didn't actually say anything. Like, all she was like, guys, can you stop fighting over her? And then Nynaeve takes this whole thing onto herself. Like, she spilled a big secret. And I didn't like that later Nynaeve felt like she had to apologize. I'm like, no, the guys are the problem here. And the writer who decided Perrin loved Egwene is the problem here.
It also just felt so misplaced to just like put that in, because it was like, okay, Perrin really wasn't involved in the fight at all for a while, and then all of a sudden he was like, apologize to her, and it's like, I'm sick of the three of you fighting over. Like, what? Also, how did he even get involved in this at all? Like, come on.
It's almost like they rewrote one of the best pairings of the first book, which is Perrin and Egwene as friends. Yeah. And like, even in the TV show, we got to watch them be like, we're not leaving each other. We're making agreements together. We're close friends. And that is a relationship that is worthy of being not romantic. Like, it doesn't need to be romantic. And I hate that they decided to add drama by doing this.
And also, like, there was no chemistry between the actors too. Like, it came off previously very sibling-like in the show.
Yes. Yeah. Like, she and Rand, for all the complaints about Rand being petty bitch, like, I got their chemistry. Like, I think they have chemistry together. But her and Perrin are so like sibling hold hands as they help each other through life. It does not need romanticized.
I felt like they had more chemistry in the book, because I do remember reading the first book and being like, oh, is Perrin and Egwene going to be a thing? And Hannah, you immediately were like, no, don't go down that path. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. You know, spoilers. But like, that I felt like it was more built up in the book, which is saying something, because Robert Jordan cannot write chemistry to save his life. But the show did nothing. They were siblings. It was adorable. They just cared for each other as friends.
Also, one of our biggest critiques is the fridging of Perrin's wife.
It's so much worse now.
To make it where he didn't love her in the first place or loved another woman more, it makes it even grosser. Like, it I don't like it. It's not good. I really hated this part, and it was just thrown in there because like after it becomes a nothing burger in this episode. Like, they don't, besides like making Nynaeve sorry for Egwene, even if like they had already had a fight in this scene, Nynaeve could come up to her and say, I'm sorry, you're right about Moraine. I'm letting my own petty differences get in the way of doing what's right, and I'm here to support whatever I need to do. That's a great ending of this episode. And this, instead, it's like, I revealed a secret that Perrin was in love with you. What?
Yeah, it was so misplaced
so
and unnecessary.
Agreed. I will say we do see Nynaeve pull her braid in this scene, and I was like, I
did like the pulling of the braid. But in this moment, like, Rand starts laughing and Perrin is like, what's funny? It's like, nothing about this scene is funny. And Rand notes that this was in front of him the entire time, and it's like, that's news to everyone else watching this show, because
no one else saw it. Rand, like, so it was very sneaky.
It was very sneaky, almost like it was just a plot point they thought of 7 episodes in. And Perrin, he notes that Perrin only proposed to Layla when he and Egwene got together, which poor Layla to be proposed to because the love of your life started having sex with another guy, and then he killed you with an axe. Like,
I hope Layla was having an affair or something and had this like really rich side hustle life.
Well, remember the first episode when I thought Layla was a lesbian? I'm like, let's have that start being canon, so at least she's not screwed over.
What if Layla was also in love with Egwene and Perrin and her like, and like that day, like
everyone's in love together. With Egwene.
And Perrin and Layla look at each other like, you wanted that, right? And she's like, yeah, like, do you want to get together? I guess. It makes about as much sense.
There's also a lot of like, people skip 30 seconds if you don't want a spoiler, but there's a lot of like questioning if Layla ends up being a dark friend because there's been some hints to it. Therefore, her dying is fine because Perrin didn't love her in the first place and she's evil. I hated this plot point.
I feel like people are just trying to justify it now, and it's just like, it's too late.
There have been some Easter eggs that slightly hint at it, like certain
What
dreams.
Are they?
Well, okay, again, people, spoilers for guesses of the show, I guess, so skip another 60 seconds. Like, when he kills her, it looks like she's almost coming at him, like she was trying to kill him from behind. There's also some dreams where Perrin's trying to protect people in his dreams, but for some reason wolves are eating at Layla, and Layla, and it's canon that wolves are beings of light, so why would they be attacking Layla in their dreams? Except Perrin is supposed to be wolf-like, so it could also just be a hint that he blames himself for her death. So like there's some stuff, and just like, why is she there in the first place if there's no other reason for it? It's a better portrayal this way. But I think it's just a way to approve of fridging someone, and a way to like make Perrin not a bad guy for being in love with Egwene. Like,
yeah, I would go more the latter, but
I mean, also, I don't think anything you just said was a spoiler, because none of that is confirmed or denied in the books. I think
it's
that's
just if
theory.
people are looking up theories online. I don't want to. If someone's listening to our show,
up a podcast about the show, I think you're safe that they might be looking for theories.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know. Like, there's things where I hope that Perrin gets better, because he wasn't that much of like a character. Like, he didn't have a backstory. That's kind of the problem with all the main characters, is none of them really had a backstory. The one they just chose for Perrin is so problematic that I really hope they still give him the stuff that's cool about him later in the book series. I'm really looking forward to him smelling that people are frustrated. I'm looking forward to watching him like, all jokes aside, no.
You don't have to be scared.
I hope that this isn't the beginning of Perrin just becoming like a nothing character. I don't feel like they're giving that actor a lot to work with, so we're not really able to see him. Like, all he does is kind of cry and squinch up his face. And
like the entire time, Hannah mentioned this when we watched the last episode, that the actor that plays Perrin and the actress that plays Egwene, they have the same like looks on their face the entire season, where Egwene always looks like she's like
so close to
going to cry. Like, she looks somewhat scared and like she's going to cry with her mouth open and her eyes just like huge. She looks somewhat like a Disney character. And then their
eyes are filled with tears.
Just always like, his face is just always scrunched up. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so Perrin always looks confused.
Yeah. Perrin always looks sad boy confused. Like, what's going on? Did I hear you right? And Egwene always looks like tears are about to spill out of her doe eyes at every moment.
She has the largest eyes of anyone in the world.
So I think for overall the casting has been great for the show. I am looking forward to them utilizing Egwene better, because a lot of her plotline has been swallowed up by like, Rand, what do you think of me? And like, it's not that fun to watch. So I don't have really strong opinions about the actress, because I don't think she's been able to really, I mean, her best scene was a scene that kind of upset me, because I agree with you, Hannah, about like her being dressed in white in that questioner scene. It made me it was weird. I don't know. I'm interested to see, because I think that actress seems very talented, and I don't feel like she's been given a lot to work with. And I'm hoping Perrin gets more to work with than like, did I kill my wife? Why is Egwene boinking my best friend?
Right.
Yeah.
And also, why is Egwene boinking his best friend? Like, Rand is... Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
No, I will say that as someone who identifies a lot with Egwene, sometimes you date nothing burgers, Veronica. Sometimes you just have to date them because you're so interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this scene with Egwene. I enjoyed her interactions with Nynaeve in this episode. I thought their relationship was amazing in this episode. The way they identify with each other, the way they communicate with each other. I think that this is some of the best Egwene I've seen of the season, where parts of her are showing through. And I appreciated that. I hated that it ended with Perrin's in love with you. What? And like Rand storming out of the room. And like Perrin screams in Rand's face, like, I've only ever loved one woman and it was my wife. And it's like, okay, then why are we having this scene? It feels like stupid.
This is unnecessary then. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so then Rand leaves. Nynaeve tries to apologize to Egwene, but Egwene is like, stop. And she just walks out. We cut over to Moraine standing on a balcony, and Land asks if they will come, and Land reassures her that they will come, and she goes, but will they come willingly? He notes that she gave them a semblance of a choice, and that's all they need. Moraine is still worried, and he asks her what's wrong, and she says nothing but nostalgia. She notes that they met in the Borderlands, and she says she feels she's taken everything from Lan and more, because again, their relationship is amazing. Lan says she took nothing from him, and she notes that there is more to life than her and this mission. And he states he had nothing to live for before her and nothing to die for. And she gave him both. I love their relationship so much. It's so pure. And then she tells him
another great friendship.
It's such a good friendship. And I love that, like, it's always been intimate. It's always been close, but then you learn it's not sexual at all because he knows she's in love with Swan. Like, it's so perfect. They're just so close.
And she tells him, I like the wisdom too.
I know. Well, she tells him to go make his goodbyes because he has people to say goodbye to in town. So it shows she understands him. Like, he would never ask to do that, but she gave him like, hey, this is what you need to do. And as he goes to leave, she goes, I like her, by the way. And he like stops and she goes, the wisdom. And you see him like nodding a little bit, like kind of taking it in. Like, he really cares about her opinion. I love this. And then we cut to him going down a dark street, and it shows that Nynaeve is following him. He enters into a home where everyone's welcoming him and hugging him. He's laughing. It's a very different Land than what we've seen in this like stoic Land with his hood up. She watches him as he hugs a small child and a woman, and then he's being given food. And then he stops and kind of like looks towards the window. She's smiling, but then she's concerned and she tries to leave. He catches her and he invites her in. He introduces her to like everyone. They call her an Aes Sedai, and she's like, no, I'm not. And then she hears that the old man tells Lan that Nynaeve is beautiful, and she's like so excited. But Lan is like, I haven't noticed. And the old man does not believe him at all. And then he thanks her for keeping the Daishine safe and bringing him home. And then he's talking to the little girl about Trollocs and how they're big, and she's like, bigger than you. And he's like, yes, with fangs. And he's just playing with her. It's so cute. I couldn't handle the cuteness of this scene. And then it cuts to them walking home. Nynaeve was like talking about how much the little girl loved him, and he's like, it's just because I bring her gifts. They're very cute. They get to his door and she thanks him for including her. He notes that she didn't give him much of a choice. She's definitely in this moment expecting him to kiss her, and then he's like, good night, and just walks into the room. She stops outside the door, but then it shows her walking away. Then we cut to Lan slowly undressing him herself, showing us his hot bod. She enters, shutting the door behind her. She walks up to him, asking if he wants her to go. He like shoves away his shirt, so we just see him shirtless, and they start walking towards one another, and then they kiss. Laura, were you excited for this scene?
I mean, I loved all of this. I thought it was really good.
I will also note that something the show has done is mostly just showed us Lan's hot bod, none of like the children, but it's always focused on male beauty. Like, we don't see Nynaeve in any state of undress in this episode.
Right.
And I think that's pretty much a very specific choice the show is making to show like, it's not hiding sex, but sex is about the intimacy between two couples, and women are not shown in like a state of like,
right. We don't need to see a bunch of boobs.
We do not. And I think that they're definitely like showing how they're going to be different than Game of Thrones in this season by being like, nope, sex, you know what happens. We're not hiding it. We're not shaming anyone for having sex like the books often do, but we're not going to just show off a woman's boobs to like titillate the fan base.
Also, I'm not sure Nynaeve got naked. She may have just like hiked up her skirt. She's very conservative in this series.
I mean, maybe
right now.
I think if you have Lan's hot bod, you're getting naked, but that's just my thought process.
I guess that's true. She came in with a mission. There was no knocking, which I do have a problem with, but like
yeah. I mean, I like it. I liked it because it like she could have been ashamed that she thought he was going to kiss her, but she's like, no, we're attracted to each other. I know this. He knows this. I'm going to shoot my shot. And I appreciated that about Nynaeve.
Right.
They built up their relationship so much better in the show.
Agreed.
Not just them standing on a hill being like, so I I could be in love with you. And it's like, cool. And then walk away.
It's cool. I'm going to name my horse after you. $3.
Oh dear. But yes, so off screen, they will be very intimate with one another. We code over to Rand shooting arrows. He isn't getting a bullseye, but he is trying to concentrate. And then you could kind of hear, like, it's a very thoughtful scene where you can kind of hear like the flames behind him, like at certain points, like you can almost hear them slow down. It's very like auditory. And then Egwene walks up and says she waited for an hour for him to come apologize to her. And he goes, I know from vast experience that when you really are ready to talk, you always come find me, which I actually thought was kind of cute.
I hated that.
I didn't like that, but
I liked it. It worked for me because it felt very, I didn't like her being like, I waited for an hour in my room for you to come apologize. But I did like that it's like, I know us, this is not going to work on you. You're not going to like, let me just come apologize to you. But I hated that she waited in her room for an hour, just mad at him.
I just hated it. I hated the fact that he was like, no, I know what you wanted, but I know what's going to work. So I'm doing
I think it was
better
more
and not
Rand's
give
comment that was annoying to me, because I'm like, if my husband would have said that, that would have been like, it would set me off even more. It's like when you ask somebody, are you mad about something? And they're not mad. And then you're like, well, now I am because you just asked me. But yeah.
And it also sucks that like she did wait for an hour, because if everything went as planned, this might have been like their last night on Earth, and she just sat there stewing for an hour about the twat waffle. Like, I hope he comes and apologizes.
That's very fair. I really like the effectiveness of something else that's coming in this episode that made me rethink the entire series as a whole. So this is probably why it worked for me, because I'm thinking of it from the context of how much I love this episode.
I do love this episode. I'm coming off very negative, but I did
like
love
this episode too.
But I actually liked their back and forth. This is kind of, unfortunately, some things that work for me. He does apologize to her, noting that he knows that there's nothing between her and Perrin, so why was it a plot point? But she states that that's actually not why she's angry. Love Egwene in this moment. She says, how could you claim that I don't care about Matt? I would fight and die for him just as much as anyone else. He notes that he was wrong and he's scared, and he's still scared. He can't lose her. And she says he won't. Moraine is definitely wrong. They're all coming back. And he says, whatever happens, the power she has can't be ignored, and she has to go to the White Tower and become what she's always wanted to be. She says she can't go without him, and she won't leave him again. And he notes that he will go with her, and every Aes Sedai needs a warder. He wouldn't let someone else be hers. And then they kiss, and she says if he's the dragon reborn, she will always stand by him no matter what. And then they go off to bed.
Do you just like this because if they got what they wanted, Gawain wouldn't exist?
No. No.
It's a joke. I'm sorry.
No, I feel a little defensive because I actually really like their relationship on the show, and I know you don't. No, and like that's just, I really think that this is really effective. I think it shows young love in a really nice way, where it is serious to them and it's very specific. And I like that he apologized to her, because in the books, this scene would have never happened. Like, he would have been like, you just can't understand girls, throw up my hands. And I like that she isn't angry at him for being upset over like something stupid Nynaeve said, or like he's worried he's mad because Perrin likes her. And she's like, no, you stupid idiot. Why would I be upset about that? That's not my fault. You said something really shitty to me about Matt, and you know me better than that. And you've been holding on to this angry thing of me being a wisdom, and I'm sick of it. And him be like, yeah, you're right. I just like that he can admit he's wrong, and there's some kind of growth with that character. And again, something happens in this that made me rethink lots of this show. So all that stuff just worked for me, but I understand that a lot of people don't. Egwene is also my favorite character. I feel like I'm talking too much right now. So
you're not talking too much. This is your guys' podcast.
I know, but no one has said anything in a while besides me. So
I'm just letting you go.
Yeah, I wanted to listen.
I really have no thoughts on Rand and Egwene because I just don't care about their relationship.
It's okay.
I just get mad when like so much time is given to like girls having bad taste in guys, even though I know it happens. And also because I think I'm just frustrated because I'm like, wait, I know I like Rand more than this. And I hate him right now. I do like what happens next for this character. I thought it was really effective, but like.
But I think that that's why these scenes work for me, because knowing what comes next, it really makes you rethink. Like, he's been seeing the books, we know all of his internal struggles and you hear about it so often. But here in this, in the scene that's coming up, you find out that he's had this weighing on him since the first episode. And he was probably fighting with Egwene for other like when he's fighting with her in the forest, she's like, you're acting differently, and he's like, I'm just upset about you. And then you find out, and like, it sucks that he's deflecting on her. I don't think that that's appropriate, but you find out that like a lot more is going on. He just found out his dad wasn't his dad, and he's running, and he's trying to deal with a lot of this guilt and a lot of this horrifying information that he just found out. And then he's trying to take care of Matt while trying to deal with his own personal trauma. And then he's like recognizing certain things that match up with what his dad has told him. And you get like his internal struggle a lot more. And like, in the scenes with Perrin and Egwene, he just figured out he was the dragon reborn. Like, you get to see all the boringness taken out of Rand. Like, this was a huge thing in like the past 6 episodes. Laura and I have been talking about, again, I'm talking way too much. You guys need to cut in. But we've been talking about how boring Rand is. And it's for this moment. But knowing that this moment has happened and it's been happening since the first episode, and it's not just him figuring it out 7 episodes in, that he's known for a while, that was very effective for me.
The setup was effective, is what you're saying, right? The setup to this moment was really effective. I get that.
In retrospect, it is. I think when you're first watching it, I had a lot of fear that he was going to find out in episode 7, like, oh my God, this all happened. Mm-hmm. And now I know, but knowing that he's been struggling, now it's more effective to know. And on rewatch, I think it'll be really effective.
I need to rewatch the whole season because I only rewatched this episode in that way because I was like, I needed it fresh, and I've been so distracted with new puppy. But so I rewatched this episode. I do think that's interesting, and I know we haven't gotten to that part, and I keep interrupting. So you keep saying that you're talking too much, and I feel like I've interrupted every sentence someone said.
Maybe it's just Laura's not talking enough. Laura, talk more.
Yeah, Laura, tell us to shut up. But like I love the scene where we get like Rand's flashbacks of like all of his stuff, because I feel like that's what Robert Jordan is always trying to do in the books, like giving people these major epiphanies, but we know for 6 books ahead of time. Yeah, and it was like much more effective. And it did make me think how different the first book would have been if it was from more of a third person objective. Because like you said, like we know in like the first chapter basically that it's Rand, because like the whole book's like it's someone who was not born, and he's like, well, Tam's my dad, right?
Right.
Denial. So like I thought it was effective, and it does make me wonder like if I would have, I don't know, maybe Rand needed a more interesting backstory in the show, try to make him too bland. I don't know how I feel about Rand in the show, because he's the only one not giving a backstory, which if you look at it that way, it makes it pretty obvious that they're trying to like not make you look at him. But if you're watching it like,
well, my sister knew within the first episode. She knew within like episode 1 or 2 that it was
like
definitely
they
Rand.
were trying so hard to make viewers think it was not him that it not only let people know it was him, but it wasn't maybe the best way to go about that character. I don't know.
I got Dan to watch this, my partner, with me, and my mom was in town, and I've had her watch the show. So before the episode, I was curious. I was like, hey, so who do you guys think the dragon is? And they both were just like, oh, as long as it's not that tall redhead guy. Like, we hate him. So when the scene happened, both of them were going, no.
Right. I don't think necessarily that making this choice was the best choice. But I can appreciate it now, knowing that back in episode 1, Rand's dealing with all of this. I think on rewatch, it'll be more interesting to watch, saying, what is he actually going through right now in comparison to like, he's trying to hide this, he's trying to shell up. And like, it makes a little bit more sense, even with the Egwene stuff, where he was like, I'm going through this thing where I just found out my dad isn't my dad. And I know the woman I love did not choose me. And so I'm so frustrated that like, no, my life is no longer in control and I don't know what's going on. I could see where you can be more frustrated when she's like, I want things to go back to normal. And you're like, no, it can't, because in his mind, nothing is normal anymore. So I think it can help with the Randness of it all.
Okay, I need to rewatch this season because his mercurial nature in the show kind of gave me whiplash.
Yeah.
For like so maybe that'll help. I'm going to rewatch this season and then I will message you if my feelings have changed about how Egwene and Rand are handled.
I just really liked how their relationship, I hated the mopiness of it, but I liked how they're portrayed as actually being in love. Like that was so much better in this than it was in the books. Because in the books, like it just felt like they were promised to one another. And here it's like, no, they actually.
That, though.
Oh, I hated that in the books. I thought it was
I liked the fact that they both were like, oh, I feel like we should be together, but I don't actually like you. Like I kind of liked that part of it, whereas like I feel like we're gonna get enough flirty teen romance in the next couple seasons that for me I kind of like the whole like, no, like we feel devoted to each other, but like I don't think I want to see him naked. And in this show they're like, we boink a lot.
I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. Like Laura does not care.
Oh, totally.
So, like,
I have nothing to say about this. I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
I think, and
Laura,
Laura,
I'll let you get back to the recap.
No, yeah, Laura's like, just
I don't care about any
give
of
me
this.
more Nynaeve. I don't give a shit.
Can we make Perrin interesting? Come on.
Can we make Perrin interesting
I don't
without
care
it being
about
foo-foo?
Rand and Egwene's relationship. Can we make Perrin interesting?
Can we make him interesting before
we have
introduce
more
Foo-foo?
Oh my god. Okay, so we cut back over
Is
to
there the time?
Nynaeve braiding her hair after she and Lan have sex. Lan is asleep. He wakes up turning over and he asks if she is leaving. She asks why he's called Daishine and he says he hates when people call him that. She waits for him to answer and he states that it's a title given to the future king of Malkier. This doesn't matter because it was a kingdom taken by the Blight. She asks who he is because who the old man was because he treated Lan like a son. And he says that he's one of his father's armsmen. And on the night that Malkier was overrun, his family was slaughtered and they smuggled him out of the palace. He was brought to Faldara. She states that before now she didn't understand why he bonded himself to Moiraine. And he asks if she does understand now. And she says that he is a king without a kingdom and a boy without a family. And now he finally belongs to Moiraine. And she's a little put out by this, but he takes her hand and they sit there. He notes that Moiraine does not own him. She asks, like, are you sure? And he goes, she only in the way that the kids own Nynaeve. And then he notes that a wisdom never weds. And he asks her to stay. And she gives him a small smile. It's very cute.
This was so great. Sweet.
We cut over to Egwene and Rand in bed. Rand is awake as she sleeps. He goes out to the place he was before and he starts shooting arrows into Bull's eyes and it cuts to random memories. He remembers his father fighting with the Trolloc and then Rand dragging him through the woods and his father starts calling Rand by his mother's name, Kari. And Tam notes that he didn't mean to find the woman there, but the baby was crying and he was so tiny in the mountains. We see scenes from before at the beginning of the episode where Tam is standing over the woman who was pregnant and he takes off his face mask, revealing that it is him. And then it shows him with the baby. And then we also see scenes that we've seen before, like Rand breaking down the door with the dark friend from episodes before. And we see that he was helping break it down with a weave mixed with black. And then we also see him with Egwene in the ways, and he is the one who made the weave that pushed the Trolloc over the edge. Right. And then it shoots back to him hearing in the black wind something that we haven't heard him hear before, which is that he is the dragon reborn and this is his fate.
So question.
Yeah.
Based on the side conversation we just had, So are we supposed to believe, in your opinion, that Rand has kind of thought it was him the whole time and it's just been trying to be in denial and now he's accepting it? Or do you think that the wind telling him that is the first time he's like, wait, that was me doing weaves?
I think that it's a mix.
The way that I took it watching it was, so like, I was not as intuitive throughout this series, apparently, where when this was like these flashbacks were being shown of him like knocking down the door with the weaves and everything, I was like, oh, okay, well that makes a lot more sense. So when this was like being said, it to me, I was taking it as Rand is looking back at these things happening and he's like, okay, we are seeing him, how he's been going through this journey, and all these pieces are kind of like adding up. And then when he's in the ways, then that voice says that to him and he's like, oh crap, so that's what all this means. Yeah. So that's kind of the way that I took it, was that he was getting like these hints, like all these symptoms that were adding up, and then he finally is like, okay, well, all these symptoms have led me to believe that it's this.
I think it's like, it's going back to what we read in the books, which is Rand's denial, but through visual format. Because in the books, it's always like, Tam is my father. Tam is my father. But it's him going through the trauma of like, my dad did not like this. My family is not my family. I was born somewhere else. But then it's that denial of like, that can't be true. That can't be true. But you still know it is. It's you having to face the acceptance of it. And then it was easy once he started channeling to be like, I knocked down a door. I don't know how that happened. But that like right afterwards, Matt starts getting sick and Tom is saying like, this is like someone channeling to a T. And so he's like, okay, so it can't be me. It's definitely because I'm not having these symptoms. So I think it's easy to layer it under denial and like make it okay, you know. And then with the weaves, like Egwene in the ways is like, I didn't mean to channel. And then it's easy to be like, then it was definitely Egwene. It wasn't me. And then the Black Wind is like, you know, it's you, you know, it's been you all along, you know what you've been doing. You just haven't been able to accept it. And it's us watching that self-acceptance. If that makes sense. Is that not how you saw it, Veronica?
So I'm like questioning how I originally saw it because of our previous conversation. Like I said, I want to rewatch it from first episode through this now. Because at first I think I took it more as like, he was so in denial, he's only putting the pieces together now. But now I'm wondering if it's him just being like, okay, I already had put the pieces together and I was looking for excuses and now I just have to accept the pieces. I like both are a version of denial, but they're slightly different.
I know. Well, I think it works better if you see it through this like layers of denial, you know, like if it's not like, oh, I'm finally putting the pieces together. I think it'll make rewatch so much more fun if you're looking at it from like, something's happening with him and he knows it, but he's trying not to point it out, you know, like he's trying to keep it away from himself.
Because like if we go back to the scene where he knocks down the ironwood door, which I loved that episode, Tom, so attractive. But when he was doing that, it was interesting to me that we didn't see weaves, because to me that did seem like, okay, he used some power. So I'm wondering if like we didn't see the weaves because he wasn't aware he was weaving. Because kind of in the book, he just goes through these like hyper like manic spells after he weaves, but he's not aware that he was doing it. And so is it only in that moment when he's shooting the arrows that he's realizing it was a weave, which is why we see it that way? I guess I'm trying to understand like the director's point of view of not having them in beforehand, other than just making it like
I don't think he saw the weaves when he was doing it, but I do think that there was an underlying understanding of something else was going on and he's trying to not admit it to himself.
And I'm also like trying to figure out why, oh my God, my brain just died. The false dragon we saw in this season that was
Logain.
Yeah, Logain. I kept wanting to say Lanfear, and I'm like, no, that's someone else I have a problem with. Logain was like laughing at Matt instead of Rand. I don't know.
I took that as Matt saw him as laughing at him. I didn't see him as actually laughing at Matt. I thought he saw them, because it's not like Matt isn't in his right mind when he sees that. He's paranoid. So him looking over at the two of them could very much be Logain looking at Rand instead of Matt. But he's just looking at Rat.
Because that scene happens so different and in a different location in the book. So I was a little caught off guard. Okay, sorry. That was the question I had that I wanted to pose to you both.
But that's why I find it so interesting in this scene, because it makes me rethink a lot of the issues we've had with Rand in past episodes, to think about it through ways of his own denial. So that's helpful. We cut over to him walking into the tavern and Min goes, oh, it's you. And he goes, did you know I was coming? And she goes, yeah, that kind of comes with the territory. I just loved Min in these scenes. She's so fucking straightforward and just like, I do not have time for your bullshit. Like,
I hope she stays cool.
I know, me too. And then he's like, could you tell me if can you tell me I'm not the Dragon Reborn? And she goes, okay, you're not the Dragon Reborn.
Brilliant. Just brilliant.
He's like, really? And she's like, you asked, dude. Like, it's very
you
much
asked
like,
me to tell you that.
She's like, you don't want me to really tell you because there's no turning back once I do. And then it cuts to her discussing the first vision she ever saw. She saw a man in armor carrying his heron marked blade. Oh, and this is we cut back to the scene now of the man in the beginning who takes off his helmet, and it's Rand's father. My bad. Min notes that when she looked at him, she saw snow and blood and a woman in labor. And then she says Can I just say,
the actor who played Tam, when he noted, like when he was holding the baby and he wanted to like show her, you could see so much in that 1 second when he's like, oh, she's dead. And I thought it was so beautiful that like the character was clearly about to be like, hey, look what you made. I'm going to kill you in a second, but look what you made.
Yeah. I feel like he wouldn't have killed her. I think he was like, this is a woman who just had a baby. I can't do this.
I want more
Tam's a good guy. I know. He deserves his own prequel. Min says that she saw a baby born on the hills of Dragonmount. She notes that he was raised with a man in a wooden house in a sleepy village surrounded by 2 rivers, and that the baby was something impossible. And then she laughs a little bit, and Rand is very overwhelmed. He asks what she sees now. She says she sees rainbows and carnivals and 3 beautiful women. He asks if she sees the eye of the world. She says she wishes she didn't because he seems like a decent person. He asks if he makes it back, and she doesn't answer. And he says, I didn't think so. The next morning,
when she said that he seemed like a decent person, at the same time, my mom and Dan went, does he though? Really loud.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love the way that actress delivered all of her lines though, because I just felt like she just kind of says them, and it's just like, wish I didn't see that because you seem like a decent person. And I love like, that delivery.
My own sexual preferences, like we talk about like Lan and Tom, but like Min is hot, guys. Like Min's I was looking at her and I was like, damn, they cast a really good Min. Like she is very attractive.
She is. I'm looking very much forward to the Min, to see where the show chooses to take Min, because those 2 scenes got me like immediately. I was so on board. When she said rainbows, carnivals, 3 beautiful women, I was like, I don't like what you're saying, but I like the way you say it.
But you can keep great. Reading my aura as much as you want to.
Tom plays the guitar and she walks in like, that guitar is going to kill you, but it's fine.
Strum, I am here. Boom. Me too. The next morning, Egwene goes to Nynaeve's room. She knocks on the door, asking her for her. She isn't there. She opens up the door. The bed is made. She smiles a little bit, like haha, and she sits on the bed waiting for Nynaeve to get back. When Nynaeve walks in, she asks where she was, and Nynaeve goes nowhere. And she goes, I mean, from this perfectly made bed, you were somewhere.
I love it.
I loved that so much.
And then they both share like a little knowing smile, which was so cute. Nynaeve says that she owes Egwene an apology and that she spoke out of turn and didn't mean to stir anything up. How much more effective would the scene have been if Nynaeve had admitted that it was her pride getting in the way and Egwene was right all along?
But too much of a story arc for Nynaeve, considering it takes like 8 books to get there.
I know, but like that's Nynaeve.
They've already jumped so many hoops with Nynaeve.
I know.
How much more can we do?
Just have her jump this one where she's not apologizing over a stupid romantic plot that didn't need to be there.
No, I agree. I don't like why she apologized, but I don't think she would have admitted it was pride. I could see her like going to be like, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm making this about me.
Yeah, that and like even that would be great, but it was about Perrin and Rand. Perrin walks in. Perrin and Rand's couple name would be Rarin, which is also hilarious. You have Rarin and Rats. So
especially because like horses.
I know.
What's Matt and Perrin's? Marrying?
Marin.
Okay.
It can't be Pat.
No, it's Pat.
It's Pat. It's Rat and Pat. Perrin walks in. He shuts the door. Nynaeve asks what they decided, and Egwene wants to go. Perrin nods. Then Egwene asks where Rand was, and Perrin says he assumed he was with Egwene. Rand is seen walking through the halls, and he knocks on a door. Nynaeve opens the door and we see Lamb. That's a little bit of trickery with the camera right here. And then it shows back to Rand knocking on the door and Moraine opens it and you see that it's during the night. And Rand tells her that it's him. We cut back to Lan, who knows that Moraine masked their bond. And Nynaeve is like, what does that mean? And he goes, it means she left. And then Egwene is shocked and she says Rand's name. We cut over to the two of them entering a place with tons of roots and trees. Moraine notes it's the Blight, and they must go through it to get to the eye of the world, thus ending the penultimate episode.
So good.
You know what's funny about that whole Blight thing is like that. So there is a Blight in Oregon with trees where hazelnut trees got really sick.
Oh.
And so they had to then make like a blight-free strain of hazelnuts. But the trees in that last scene are like what hazelnut blighted trees kind of look like.
That's what it looks like. Oh my gosh.
Like not to that, they're not planted so close together because, you know, farmers who plant hazelnut trees give them space. But like when I'm driving to wine country, I'm like, oh, the Blight. And so then I think of Dragon Age. And then I watch this scene, I'm like, oh, the Blight.
That's amazing.
It gave me like total vibes from the Hobbit movie with all the giant spiders.
Canonically, Hannah has not watched The Hobbit, so
you don't need to.
I said if we get how many reviews, it was like an astronomical number, but I would watch The Hobbit.
I should make more logins and just.
I think it was 100, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 100. I think we're at like 5. I really love this episode though. I love Nynaeve and Land. I always say Land. I really enjoy. I'm the only one who enjoys Egwene and Rand.
You're probably not the only one, but
no,
maybe the only one here.
Yeah. But that's okay because I'm also the one who gets most annoyed with Nynaeve. So
you're also not the only one there. So
I know. I mean, here I'm the only one who gets quite as annoyed. But it sounds like
in the house that you're in.
Veronica also got annoyed with Nynaeve in this season, so I'm glad I'm not alone.
There were lots of people that got annoyed with Nynaeve. So
yeah, I think Nynaeve was written really well, where the things that were problematic in the book that you've pointed out and that we've fought about previously were more justified in the show. But it doesn't mean like when you watch someone be obstinate and like stubborn, it's fun just because you know why they're doing it. Like it's still just like Nynaeve. You could have helped Matt. Like I get that you had your basket of herbs and you were going to go in there and heal him, but like you could have told Moraine. Moraine was going to tell you. Like, come on.
Right. See, it made more sense in the show when she didn't tell Moraine about Matt. Like, I just hated in the books when she was like, you should be using these herbs. And Moraine is like, could you not? Like, could you calm down 3 notches? Like,
I like the fact, though, in the show that Moraine is kind of more pro Nynaeve, more like formally. Like, because in the books, it's kind of like, Moraine, what's your goal here? Like, it's very weird because there's a thing that I'm not going to say that happens that is weird.
I think in the books it's more of a I'm pitting these women against each other type situation, and in the TV show there's more of a setup of distrust and why there would be distrust on Nynaeve's part, and then from Moraine to Nynaeve I think it's more of a frustration with her not understanding that Moraine actually has a higher motive and purpose for all of them and that she's just kind of being annoying.
Yeah, in the books it always felt like Moraine just didn't care about Nynaeve. Like honestly, I never got that, like, except for like 1 or 2 moments where Moraine all of a sudden was like really antagonistic about Nynaeve. Like it always felt like Moraine was just like, whatever, dude, go do you. I don't really give 2 shits. And like that was always annoying because I hate watching one person be like, we're in a fight, and then the other person be like, we're really not.
I don't
like
care.
I don't care what you do, just go live your life. Like that was how I always read their relationship. I like in this, you're right, like Moraine is more pro Nynaeve, where it's like, I just want her to be better because she is better. Like she's better than this. Why isn't she being better than that? Which is often how I feel about Nynaeve. So maybe Moraine, I'm just putting a lot of my emotions onto her, but
it's possible. But also like, I think just the fact that they set up the show being like, there's 5 possible dragons made it so that she had to care, which is good. Also, I will say for a hot second, I did buy into that maybe they're going to change it to the dragon has many heads thing. So I was almost disappointed when it was still just
I kind of hoped it was going to be that too. And I was like, oh,
it was cool.
That would have been a cool change.
It would have been a great change. But
because then we could have seen like more like a person representation of them kind of going dark, because one of the 5 heads is like definitely going down a dark path. And what does that mean? I don't know, like it's still going to be interesting to see where the show goes, but there was a couple times where I was like, oh, are they really going to like go that far?
Right.
I didn't think they were ever going to go that far just because of some of the plot points. You can't really do that with a bunch of different people, but it would have been an interesting take. And I liked the changes they've made in this show a lot, except for the Perrin Egwene of it all. And mostly Perrin's storyline. I hate most of Perrin's storyline outside of the Tuatha on. Like,
I just think that Perrin really, in the books and the TV show, his character has so much potential, and it's just like, meh, we'll throw that away. And I even have that problem with Jordan too, where it's like he sets Perrin up to be a really cool character, and then I'm just so disappointed with the direction that it goes.
So I do think part of it was still and this is where I'm hoping they fix it. Part of it was still the subterfuge of who the Dragon Reborn could be, because up until this point, like the three boys, like even people who haven't read the books, it's like, it's got to be one of the boys because it was written in the 90s, you know, like, so I do think a little bit of it was like, well, once everyone knows that Matt isn't acting weird because of channeling, that he's acting weird because of a dagger, you're seeing Perrin have this weird magical self sense. And so I do think they didn't want to push the boys storyline, and like anyone except for Nynaeve, they haven't really pushed their powers yet, and I think that they were doing that on purpose to make you guess who the Dragon Reborn was.
It's definitely a look over here situation.
And so I think that's where they really failed Perrin in this season, because they wanted you to guess, they took away a lot of what makes Perrin cool, because a lot of what makes Perrin cool is discovering this golden eye portion of himself, and you can't have him go too far down that line.
Do you think we're going to see Elias, or he's just cut out?
I kind of wonder if he might be in season 2.
I feel like he's cut out, and I'm disappointed.
I hope not.
What if they like combine Elias and Fufu and just make Elias?
That would be great.
Fufu.
Like the fanfic, like the fanfic that I found.
Exactly.
That'd be amazing.
Because like, I love that Moraine has been.
Laura, I'm sorry to cut in, but do you want it to have the orgy that was in that fanfic? Or are you okay without it?
As long as nobody dies, I guess.
Okay, sorry. Veronica, you were discussing more.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I like the fact that they have made one of the characters canonically not like a cis person who's just full on straight. But I do think one of the 5 kids, if they're not straight, would be nice. And Perrin is the one that currently, I just remember, I shipped him with Elias in the books, so I just want that.
Ship a lot of people with Perrin in the books. Unfortunately, you did it with and you were just wrong. So
what did we say? That there's a lot of Matt fanfic?
There's a lot of Matt characters being. Yeah, I could see Matt being bisexual, because Matt is pretty. I think Matt could
easily be bisexual.
I also kind of like, this is a dream and it's a pipe dream, because like so much of the power structure relies on gender constructs. And I would love to see non-binary or transgender people and how they would work in this magical system, because I'm interested to see what they would have done with that in 2022.
I have some interesting ideas of how that could play in, but it would be a spoiler for the last episode and the most recent book, so I'm going to keep them to myself for right now.
Why don't you message me and I'll read it on air next week?
Okay. I don't think it really works yet, because it's more like, I don't know, I'll message it to you. You don't have to read it on air.
Okay.
But I might message it to you because I need to talk to someone about it.
That's fair. But overall, this was a great episode. Like the penultimate episode was one of the best of the season, in my opinion. I thought
it might have been my favorite.
I think it might have been mine too. It's hard because episode 4 was so good.
Episode 4, I think, is a close second, but I think like 7 more.
It's either my first or my second. I think Laura and I will have to rate the episodes next week, but I mean, Veronica, you've seen the last episode. Do you want to give us your rating really quick, or do you not remember? We've both watched the season episodes multiple times. So
I mean, I have to rewatch the whole season personally. I really liked the first episode with Tom, and I don't remember if that was 3 or 4.
I believe that was 3.
Okay. And I liked the second episode with Tom, where like Matt's having his major struggle, and at the end we don't know if he killed the family. So I loved that episode. I did like the one before this. I liked 6 where we like had all like the Aes Sedai intrigue stuff. I thought it was a little slow, but I liked it.
Really like 6.
This one was probably my favorite in the season, and I want to say 8 is probably my least favorite or second to least favorite. I wasn't a huge fan of some things, but I think they could be interesting if next season picks them up. There's some things that happen at the end of the episode I'm kind of confused about, and I don't understand the choice of. I'm keeping this super vague, but like, it's not that it was a bad episode. It's just like, it might be the first episode where the changes don't make sense to me. But I have enough. The first 7 episodes overall were so strong that I am still like so looking forward to canon season 2 and like what they go with it. Cause like I trust them. They're doing really good things.
I agree with
I hope that all the costumes I think are beautiful too, but I think they forget that these characters are supposed to have been on the road a while and they need to like dirty them up. Like there is a scene
all throughout the books.
Yeah, like there's this thing where like Lan was like about to get nude or whatever, like right before the sex scene that didn't happen because it was off screen, where like he takes off his bracers and they look brand new. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, unless she's healing his leather bracers like for him each night, those things should be more beat up. Or like in the Borderlands, the king guy's sister, I forgot her name. She's wearing like white and the costume is gorgeous, but I'm like, you live in a desert. That should be dirty. There's certain things like that where I feel like they make beautiful costumes and they're just like kind of scared to make them look lived in.
If I can get spaghetti sauce on a white sweater without eating spaghetti, how can they live in a desert and not get a white dress dirty?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
I do think there's a weird thing with high fantasy novels that like people in high fantasy novels have the best laundry. And even like, I was like, they couldn't change the white cloaks because making them white cloaked is such a choice. Like in a high fantasy, when you're reading it, you're like, sure, whatever. But when you're looking at it on a TV show, I'm like, they're dirty. They have to be like,
yeah,
this isn't useful in battle. You stick out. You're in white. Like,
yeah, there are certain things where it's like in the novels I have this ongoing thing when I read fantasy novels where I'm like, can someone please like, I need to know where you're going to the bathroom. I need to know if it's okay in this society that like girls are like,
I also ask these questions.
I wonder these things all the time. I'm wondering like when they're bleeding, like, are the girls like, hey, I need you to like magic me some tampons. Like I think of these things way too much when reading. There's like a podcast I listened to where they play D&D, and in one of the episodes, the character decided someone went to the bathroom and everyone's like, what did you do? And he's like, I just thought a character needed to go to the bathroom. Yes. So that wasn't a setup. And I was like, yes. But the thing is like other times that fantasy shows have become, or fantasy books have become movies, and I'm thinking the top 2, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, they do dirty up the costumes. Like they clearly make these beautiful costumes, and then there's like, they're scraping them up. And I just feel like, I don't know, Amazon was like, but we made them pretty. Let's keep them pretty. And I'm like, just make it look a little more lived in. Like everyone's
Game of Thrones is really effective with the costumes.
Yes.
I agree.
This has not been a scene, but I do want to see an episode where Nynaeve has to go to the bathroom in a really rundown inn, and she's disgusted by it. Because can't you see Nynaeve's face being like horrified having to use a dirty bathroom?
I could see a scene where like they're all waiting for her down, like, okay, she was supposed to be here, and they catch her and she's gotten all the maids to clean it, and she's like,
or just like somebody having to go to the bathroom outside.
Yeah,
like they're on the horses 12 hours a day, sometimes longer, and I'm like, do you just pee on the horse? Like I actually want to know, like, do your
I mean, usually they just take bathroom breaks, and they dig, like, I mean, when you poop outside when you're camping, you have to dig a hole. So I just assume that.
But they say like, oh,
like
we've been riding nonstop,
where they're just like standing waiting by the horses, and somebody walks out of the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
And not just a guy doing the whole like shake thing. Like I need the girl coming in and being like, there weren't any leaves.
I at least that you can see the women wearing some type of pant with their like skirts. Like I'm so
I like that they showed that with Moraine, because it made it so much better to understand how she could be riding a horse that long and doing some of the moves she was doing. Yeah.
Because in the book,
the Aes Sedai in general.
Yeah, it works so much better to see women like in pant, like skirts type things. So
yeah, there's stuff like that, which I hope that the show doesn't stay as shiny. Like, and it's the same thing with like the special effects. Things just are too clean. It's like they build sets they're really proud of, It's a little Once Upon a Time-y, where like I was really into Once Upon a Time, but it just was a little too shiny, and then it got really bad. But like things are just a little too shiny.
I do think like the Black Wind, again, their CGI just needs some work, because even the Black Wind, I was like, okay, this is the most effective of bad CGI. Like out of all the bad CGI, the Black Wind, I was like, this is kind of the best we've seen, but that's sad.
Like I loved that Nynaeve and Moraine were like the heroes in that scene, but there is something about just watching them be like, ugh, with their arms out, that I'm like, this isn't effective enough. But I can't tell if it's because the acting is weird or if the CGI cheapens it. So sometimes that takes me out a little bit, but I do think it's more effective than in the books when they were like, it looks like the actors, like the characters are like, if anyone walked by, we were just having an extreme staring contest. I don't know. But I'm very excited for season 2. I'm excited to hear your episode on episode 8. Who do you have coming on?
No one. We are doing the 8th episode by ourselves.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Well, with that, Veronica, thank you so much for being on this episode. Yes. We love having you on and all your thoughts. I think like this is going to be one of our longer episodes, but it's the penultimate episode, so it should be. No, I think actually like having this be a long episode is a good idea more than it is a bad idea. So we hope everyone enjoyed it, and make sure to tune in tomorrow for us covering the first half of the 11th book of the Wheel of Time, Knife of Daggers. We're covering the first half, and next week we will be
Knife of Dreams.
Knife of Dreams. Sorry, Knife of Daggers.
Of Daggers.
That's my fan fiction for this book. So we will be covering the first half of Knife of Dreams. And then next week, Laura and I will be covering the 8th episode and our last TV Tuesday for a while, because Laura is sick of editing 2 episodes a week.
It's a lot of editing.
But we might bring it back for maybe doing
maybe a bonus every now and then.
Maybe bonuses every now and then. It might not be always a TV Tuesday, but we hope you guys enjoyed us covering the Wheel of Time so far, and can't wait to finish up the series next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.